Everyone, this is Bob Whitaker from History Respawn, jumping into what is the early part of Assassin's Creed Origins. This is about, I guess, 45 minutes to an hour into the game, so I'm still trying to get my bearings a little bit with the new gameplay types and the open world in general. And we are in the village of Siwa, with our player character here, and I'm going to jump into some of these missions here.
Do my eyes deceive me?
So this is broadcast of the PlayStation 4 version of the game, and I think, this is not a PlayStation Pro, this is not a high-grade PC, but still, the game is just absolutely gorgeous. And I think that that's kind of one of the main selling points that I have so far. I should mention that this PlayStation 4 copy came to me from Ubisoft directly, so this is a review copy of the game. And I think, in terms of comparing this to previous Assassin's Creed games, you can tell just based on the artwork, the rendering here, that those extra years that were spent on this game compared to previous iterations were well spent, right? The kind of graphical output of this game is pretty incredible. What remains to be seen, though, is the storytelling, which I think so far has been a little disjointed in parts, even only an hour into the game. The open world, as far as I can tell, seems very fleshed out, a lot of things to do, but I'm a little bit concerned so far with some of the writing for the main story quest. So I'm going to jump into some of those and see if that storytelling improves at all.
Nurse Senu back to health. I never expected to see her again.
She is a tough old bird.
Like you, eh?
Vayak.
Epsifa tells me you are healing the villagers as best you can. It would give me much pleasure to help you.
That is kind of you. May Yakar be blessed. I can always use help. The soldiers are brutes. Almost every villager has cuts, bruises, broken bones. To help them, I put together a makeshift phalanx in the old ruined temple. Friends bring me medicine from Yamu, but now the soldiers stop everyone entering the village and steal their goods. So, we tried to bring medicine on a boat instead.
And the soldiers stopped that also.
They sank the last shipment. The medicine jars are scattered across the bottom of the lake.
I will get them for you.
Great.
Thank you, Bayek.
Fetch quest.
Bring it to the old temple. I must go there now.
Medicine could be anywhere in this lake. Senu can help me.
Sunken ship, okay. So this is part of the new game's features. And in previous Assassin's Creed you had eagle vision. And now in this game you literally have an eagle. Who does a lot of the advanced spotting for you. And the controls are really pretty intuitive. And I'd say that this so far has been one of the kind of high points of this game. Although there is a function for this eagle in which you can hit L2 and actually hold your position while you look around. A little odd, but of course these games never try to veer too closely to reality. Okay, I think that must be it. One thing I have noticed, though, while playing with the Eagle is that your player character, is still vulnerable to attack. So that's something that's a little difficult to manage, especially if you're in a combat area. And again, this is just on a regular PlayStation, so you can see a lot of difficulty with the frame rate, etc. underwater, but at the same time, I think even though this is not an incredibly advanced machine, it still looks pretty good.
Ravia's waiting for these jazz.
So one of the important recommendations that I got from the review material for Assassin's Creed Origins was Ubisoft recommended avoiding missions that were over the level of your character, and one of the major developments for Assassin's Creed Origins is the inclusion of RPG elements. So there's looting, there is collection and crafting of goods, there is upgrading points for your character, upgrade sets, and the mission types are often delineated by what level you are. So it adds a really different element to the Assassin's Creed formula, but one I think that is interesting. Again, just really gorgeous game, even on a base level PlayStation 4. A lot of the traversal elements are still the game, very similar to previous iterations of the series. But in terms of player movement and functionality, combat has been completely changed. And if I get to a combat mission here, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Ah, Bayek. Amun be...
What has happened? Why aren't the patients in the temple ruins?
The soldiers threw us out. Even though I paid the Nomarch to allow me to use the temple, every few weeks soldiers come to take our medicine and food stocks. Always the same soldiers. They call it a tribute. A tax for the Pharaoh's royal army. We barely have what's needed to take care of the poor souls that need our help.
Vultures. Don't worry, Rabia. I will make certain they don't bother you anymore.
Be careful, Bayek.
So it looks like we'll get an opportunity for combat here, and I'll try to scout out the area with the Eagle first. It looks like they might not show up until you walk in there, so I'll just walk in. So this game is set in a late Ptolemaic Empire in Egyptian history, and the developers of the game, I think, have always been interested in setting a game in ancient Egypt. And in a podcast episode for History Respawn, I talked to the historical advisor for the series, Maxime Durand, in which he talked about wanting to not just do ancient Egypt, but also do the ancient Roman world as well. And so there was a concentration on Cleopatra's reign during the late period of BCE. So I'm not exactly sure which soldiers I'm supposed to be killing here. I'll try this guy first.
Wait a minute. I've been piecing peace soup.
Certainly with setting the game in late period of the Ptolemaic Empire during the period of Cleopatra, it's certainly one that you know, most people know well, thanks in large part to other historical fiction, you know, kind of the sword and sandal movies of the 1950s and the 60s, and also television series like Rome. But setting it in that time period also means that you have to deal with not just potential inaccuracies. I want to get my act together here. So like I said, with the combat, you've got Z targeting here. Very similar to what you see in a Zelda game. Also, you've got the use of sword and shield, if you want, which is far different from what you've had in previous Assassin's Creed games. And as you'll notice, numbers fly off of enemies once you attack them, and this is kind of a hallmark of RPG games, but not something that you've seen in previous Assassin's Creed games. So a little bit odd, but also I think kind of fitting in well with the other RPG elements of the game, and fitting in with the kind of move towards an open world setting. So again, odd for Assassin's Creed, but fits in with kind of more modern developments with these styles, the style of open world game.
The temple is yours now. Those soldiers won't bother you again.
All my patience, thank you.
Ah, I almost forgot to give you your medicines from the sunken boat.
In all the excitement, I forgot about them myself.
The Oasis of Siwa is lucky to have you, Rabbi.
Promise me you will not become consumed with your vengeance, Bayek.
I think of nothing else. By the grace of Amun, one day I will be free of it.
So on the one hand, I think it's great that the game... Oh, I guess that guy's healed. On the one hand, I think it's great that the game does those cut sequences in the in-game engine, but at the same time, I think the facial animations and kind of character movement is something that doesn't look very natural for a cutscene like that. However, I would say that the voice acting on the whole is pretty good. I'll jump in here and see what other quests I have. So here are the new menus, and one thing that immediately stood out to me in looking at this and then comparing it to previous Assassin's Creed games is that you don't have a traditional database as you did in previous Assassin's Creed games, where you could go in and look at details related to the historical time period or related to the characters, historical characters involved, which I think is a shame. I don't know if maybe that pops up later in the game. I somehow doubt it, but I think Ubisoft might be waiting to share that kind of historical detail in the Discovery Tour mode, which they announced last month, which promises to be a history and education focused mode that has the combat and most of the character movement taken out in order to facilitate engagement with the historical research, the historical elements that Ubisoft included in this game. But that mode doesn't come out until early next year, and it is a free DLC, but it's disappointing to me that that database, this kind of hallmark of past Assassin's Creed games, isn't available, at least in this initial version of the game. So see here, you've got the inventory, also got the ability descriptions here, very much in line with modern open world games, things like the Far Cry series, The Witcher, where you've got an RPG inventory with crafting, and then also sets of abilities that you can level up and progress towards, and then of course also different types of equipment and loot. And there's again kind of a strange inclusion, at least compared to previous Assassin's Creed games, of numbers. Okay, let's get back to. So let's see, I'm level 3, so suggested level 5. And again, like I said, it really stressed to me that you should only attempt missions that you are maybe one level off of, because otherwise they'll be too difficult. So let's jump into this water rats one. So as I was saying before, Ubisoft had been interested for a while in setting a game in ancient Egypt, had centered on doing a game with this kind of late BCE era involving Ptolemy and Cleopatra. And like I said, you know, that's kind of a period that's been well worn in historical fiction, which makes Ubisoft's decision, I think, understandable in the sense that it's one that most people will know of pretty well or be familiar with, and be interested to see in a game form. But it's also, I think, a time period that comes along with a lot of baggage, because people's ideas about what that type of world looks like is so centered on previous historical fiction portrayals, either in books or movies or television series. Let's see, I think this will be the fastest way to get there. So again, I'm only a couple hours into the game, but I think so far I've loved the look of the game. I'm interested in the RPG elements. Ooh, restricted area. Looks dangerous. But I'm a little bit worried about what's going on with the storyline, and in particular with the portrayal of different historical elements. Wasn't so difficult. I'm just a little bit curious if this bird can fly into things. Maybe not.
used to come here as kids. Bandits must be inside.
Dear Moon.
Kent, is that you? What are you doing?
Bayek, I heard you were back. Keep quiet. They'll hear you.
Who will hear you?
The bandits, the bastards, took over the spring. Almost everyone on this side of Siwa gets their water from it.
Oops.
Madman, what are you doing?
Hey, someone there?
So in one way, the combat system being so different, you know, it doesn't involve the kind of old elements of counter and parry and then attack. And on the one hand, that's really awkward, but I think on another hand, it's kind of freeing not to have to rely on those same sort of older elements which became so rote and so kind of institutionalized in previous versions of the game. And it means that combat becomes a lot more kind of more loose and kind of plays into different styles of gameplay, which I think is might attract more players to the series. But on the other hand, it's still really strange to have these sorts of things included in a Assassin's Creed title.
That's it. Bandits will think twice before coming back here.
I'm gonna take a moment here and see what kind of loot there is. Well, so here we got a good excuse to jump in here and take a look at the abilities tree. So there was, you know, there was elements of this sort of RPG ladder in previous games. I mean, especially in AC Syndicate, there were different abilities ladders or abilities trees for Evie and Jacob, the two protagonists for the last game set in Victorian England. But this one is much more kind of RPG in its elements, you know, with inventory, with gear, and then also with the level progression. And I think, I mean, I want to say with Evie and Jacob, there was only 2 RPG trees or level trees, whereas in this one you've got 3 different trees or ladders available. So let's see what kind of skills we can add here. That might be worthwhile. I think I'm going to go with this one here. Yeah. Oh no, it requires 2 and I've only got 1. Shoot. Well, I don't want to go out empty-handed. Arrow retriever. Stuck in your shield. To be honest, I haven't been using my shield that much, so I think I'm going to go with air attack here. So this is a quick look at the world map, and as you can see, the world area is divided up into different districts, just like previous games, and I'm not sure exactly what these shields and numbers stand for. I would imagine those are the level limits for each of those areas, or maybe they're the quests that are available. I'm not sure. I suppose I could look at the legend here. No, I don't. Unfortunately, I don't see description there. Oh well. And there is a photo mode of this game, and I want to say that Ubisoft automatically uploads images taken by other players, which is interesting. I think it's kind of one of the small ways in which they try to encourage some sort of sense of a community and some sort of sense of a multiplayer aspect in a game that is otherwise completely single player. Might want to travel up to... Well, I can't fast travel anywhere. I might want to try doing some of these viewpoints before I stop. So I did want to mention that we are planning an upcoming episode, YouTube episode of this game, and I've managed to schedule an episode in the coming weeks with an Egyptologist. So I think we'll be able to get a better sense of how well this game depicts the historical time period, the historical setting, and also maybe dealing with how Ubisoft and the game approaches hieroglyphics. So I'm really, really excited about that episode, especially because this is a historical time period that I personally don't know a lot about. So it's one of those great opportunities. So that was a camp that I went through. It's one of those great opportunities afforded by doing History Respawn, afforded by this series in which I get to learn something, as well as getting an excuse to play the games. Again, just a absolutely gorgeous game. I think it's kind of the initial thing that comes out of the first couple hours of playthrough. Great textures, great scenery, great design to the areas. Let's see if I can get up to this viewpoint here. Gorgeous. Wow. Okay, I think I'll try to do one more quest and then I'll hang it up for the evening. I think this is the first big assassination in the game. And again, you can stop your bird in midair to kind of get a better sense of where the guards are located. It's fun, if completely unrealistic. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. And so you'll notice up there to the top left, it's giving a warning about being one level below in this mission, but I think I'll go ahead and give it a shot, and if I fail, then, well, at least there'll be some video evidence.
Stop you! Right there!
Looks like this is the beginning of this compound.
This place is heavily guarded.
Seeing all these flamingos here, it makes me very curious about asking our Egyptologist or maybe subsequent guests that we have on HR about the wildlife and the ecology of Egypt.
Is anyone there? If I wasn't a priest, I'd bash in all your stuff.
So it looks like that's just a spot to hide.
If someone's there, let me out and fight.
So you notice the guards over here, they still a little bit of open world jank, if you will, with them in terms of the way they move when they're off camera. And also you could see that some of the birds kind of phasing in and out of the scenery. Nothing that you wouldn't really expect with these type of games, but still. I'm not sure what this guy's line of sight actually is, so I want to try to sneak up on him.
Stay with me.
Well, so much for the quiet approach. Oh, I still have to get close to him, I suppose. I think it is interesting, and the guy that I just threw off there was bald. It's a small thing, but I don't remember there being many bald guards in previous Assassin's Creed games, so that's fun, I think.
You have returned.
To right your wrong.
I die my work unfinished. So close, so very close to ushering in the perpetual rule of the strong and virtuous. Virtue! What will give us the power of the gods? What is one boy?
What is one boy?
Papa?
So close. Hey, one more.
Okay.
Well, we're getting a little bit more of the backstory here, so
I can try.
I think I'll stop the stream here just to kind of keep some of the story elements out of the realm of spoilers.
Oh, you made me miss. You.
Well, I drew smiley faces on the apples.
Yes.
Well,
Go ahead.
that does it for the stream. Thanks for joining me, and I should have enough material by the end of this weekend to start preparing for the History Respawned episode on YouTube, so look for that in the coming weeks.
Let's go on a real hunt.
And until then, talk to you later.